Hello, everybody. This is Steven Jensen, now it's Pawlowski. We got what normally would be the Wednesday Night Wars. We did not have any AEW tonight, but we did have NXT, and it was the go-home show to NXT Takeover 30. So me and Alex are going to talk about that. Looking forward to hearing y'all's thoughts as well. So make sure, if you want your voice heard for sure, hit us with a super chat. Any amount, get your statement, comment, question, whatever it is. We'll deep dive on it. We'll make sure we answer your questions. We'll try to give you your money's worth the best that we possibly can on your questions, comments, statements. So looking forward to hearing about these on this episode. Before we get into that, Alex, how you doing tonight, man?
My beloved NXT is finally jumped the shark, and we saw it coming over the course of several weeks and months, but it's officially Wednesday Night Raw, and it's really sad because it was, to me, the best wrestling on TV in the world up until about like that wonderful heyday, 2016 to 2018, and then they were like, let's put it on TV, everybody will watch it, it'll be great, and then it fell apart. So I'm sad.
Well, we do have a packed show to talk about. There was a lot that went on. I was actually pretty surprised how quick those 2 hours flew by, to be honest. Like I felt like that first hour especially was like jam-packed, and then we got to the McAfee stuff, which we're going to definitely talk a lot about because there's a lot to talk about there for sure. We did have a couple super chats I want to address real quickly before we jump into this that came through right at the top. From Throwback, he says, have an amazing show tonight. Thank you, Fightful, for everything. Can't wait for the rest of the week. Thank you, Throwback. We appreciate the support very much, man. We also have one from, that's going to be a tough one, Singer Vampire. I might be messing that up a little bit, but Singer Vampire. Trying to do that my best shot. It says, have a great evening, gents. Big shout out to Mr. Warren Hayes in his Discord. So yeah, shout out to Warren. Of course, I'm here replacing Warren for the night because he's on vacation. So thank you very much for that. We also had another super chat just come in from Anakin JMT. It says, moment of silence for Alex losing NXT to main roster shenanigans. Okay, that's kind of what you're alluding to, right?
Yeah. It's the hey, there's a multi-man ladder match on the pay-per-view. Let's make sure they all come out and get involved in this thing because schmazes are fun, and they're never fun. They're always a bad idea. Don't do them.
Yeah, we're going to definitely get into that because I feel exactly the same way. Well, let's just jump right into it, man. As far as like this show starting off, went right into the first match. We had Johnny Gargano taking on Ridge Holland. And of course, there was a really alarming spot during this match that looked very... I think Johnny Gargano is very lucky. I'd assume he's pretty okay. I mean, for the most part, considering they did finish the match. But from what I understand, they did, like when it was live, they did stop it and check on him and stuff before they went back into it, from what I understand. So what were your thoughts on this match? What are your thoughts on Gargano advancing over Ridge Holland? And then, of course, that scary spot there.
Well, this is kind of what I thought when they were, they moved Loomis out. They I don't know how legit his injury really was. I guess it was partially legit at least. But I said, okay, well they want to put in the big names into this thing. They're worried about the rest of the programming and it not measuring up with their normal card. So let's get the big names in there. And yeah, I thought there was no way Gargano was going to lose to Ridge Holland. I thought there's that obviously the other match where you have different sides of but they're both big stars at least in the other match with Finn and Dream. In this one, I thought Gargano was no way he's losing. And then Ridge Holland, sentient side of beef, who looks really good and he can throw some really interesting suplexes and slams and stuff. But he literally just drops 170-pound Johnny Gargano on the top of his head, and I thought, well, that's it. Like, and when I saw also that, like, no, they stopped it. They stopped the match. They went in to check on him. Then they filmed the rest of it. I was like, well, they filmed the rest of it so that Ridge Holland would win, surely, because Johnny Gargano obviously hasn't impacted several vertebra. So no, he wins. Like he looks like a trooper. He sold his ass off for the kid Ridge Holland, who again could very well have a very long and productive career ahead of him. He's got an interesting look. I don't know if he can talk, but I mean, he could. He has a possibility for a very bright future as long as he can get past that one thing where you're not supposed to kill the guy you're wrestling. Like that's a number one rule, Ridge. As you develop more and do more things, you're going to learn. Don't kill the dude you're wrestling. But other than that, he's doing a pretty good job. And yes, they have Gargano in there to have the name value. His 18th takeover. I think they want to get that to like 20, 25. I think they want it to be like this thing of Johnny Gargano spent his entire career in NXT being that guy they can always turn to for stuff. A lot of people have like gotten tired of Johnny, and I think that he's such a consummate professional that I'm always interested in watching what he does.
Yeah, the 18 takeovers is interesting because you can look at it, kind of one of two ways, right? It's like either super cool that he's done it, or also a little concerning that he's been there that long, and that might only be like my thing is this though too. I think he's a much better fit for NXT than he would be on Raw or SmackDown. So I'm not over here like fiending for him to like make the move. I just don't know like how much more there is left for him to accomplish there with like the way that system works, with the way they're going to continue to sign new people. Certain people are going to have to be highlighted because most of the people are eventually going to go up to, quote unquote up to Raw or SmackDown and stuff like that. So Gargano's in a strange spot. But like you said, he's always reliable. So I'm very interested in this one. And I'll also say I'm not advocating anybody do that move that, we saw tonight where he got spiked on his head. I'm not like advocate, but like if that was a move that was like done safely, that was like a sweet looking move. I do have to say, that's something I've never seen before.
Yeah, I don't know if that was supposed to look like that, and then Johnny just didn't tuck his head because he never wrestled Ridge Holland. But Johnny's wrestled so many people, he knows what how to take moves. So I don't know if that move was supposed to look like that, or was supposed to be like a regular Randy Orton type power slam, and it just got all messed up. I don't know what happened there, but I thought that a lot of his stuff looked great. He's got a great head and arm suplex thing. There's some good uranagis. He's a really powerful type dude. I could see somebody like Vince McMahon falling in love with this guy, particularly if he's got a fun accent. Like honestly, I think a major reason why Vince is super enamored with Drew McIntyre, who I actually love. I think he's doing great work. I think a main reason why Vince loves him is because he's got that great Scottish brogue. Like if Ridge Holland has a really cool British Isles accent, I think Vince is like, yeah, pal, that's great. The ladies love that. I think that's for sure where he's going to go.
I love that. And you and Vince actually, I think, agree on this one, right? With all the beef in the ring there. I mean, that's...
beef. What's for dinner?
There you go. We did have another super chat there a second ago that I want to make sure to address. From Evan Wright. It says... Oh, wow, thank you. It says, Steven Jensen Appreciation Super Chat. Can we get a Sour Graps Extra this week? Much love to y'all. I think I'll skip this week's NXT show on Friday. I think you mean you'll...
Saturday.
On Saturday, I think is what you mean. Evan, that's too kind of you, man. Thank you very much for that. And, of course, you can find myself and Alex on Fightful Select. We're on there all the time. Alex does the Sour Graps podcast, which I say all the time. I think that is worth the price of admission alone to get your Fightful Select subscription. I do the Weekender talking like all non-WWE and AEW stuff, although we do talk about being the elite. So you get podcasts, you get stuff from Sean Ross Sapp, you get stuff from him and Jimmy Van, a whole bunch of stuff, news. You get the scoops, everything you can imagine. And it is the most direct way to support Fightful as well. So make sure to check that out. Figured I'd give that a little plug, Ski, considering the kind words there from Evan about our podcast there. So thank you.
Yeah.
Moving on, we had... What was next on this show? Oh, yeah, Dakota Kai versus Kamea. Kamea, am I saying that correct? Kamea, right?
Yeah.
Obviously I thought this was what it was. Like they're obviously building towards Dakota Kai, and they're going to be, she's in the next title match. And I think what happened out after the match was probably a bit more important. So if you want to talk about, Dakota Kai getting this win, and then, of course, Gonzalez came out and you know, her bodyguard essentially.
Yeah. No, I really liked the use of the match because too often now, especially on the main roster, which again NXT is becoming, they just do okay. The top contender will face the champion 7 times before they have the pay-per-view match, and either or you're going to have sloppy DQ finishes, double countouts, or somebody's gonna get a clean pin or a a pin via distraction or whatever that doesn't seem to help anybody or hurts one of the people like a lot. Why is Asuka pinning Bayley or submitting Bayley all the time? Why do I want to watch that match now? But this is a great tune-up match for the top contender. Dakota Kai gets to look like $1,000,000. You get to watch her beat up this woman, Kamea, and say, wow, I mean, if Dakota Kai looks like that against Io Shirai, I believe she has a shot, which you would never do unless you saw this match. So give these top contenders, especially heels, that like with Dakota Kai, she spent a long time in NXT as kind of a laughingstock. And then she had that heel turn, but she still wasn't winning matches. So this title match comes out of relatively nowhere. So you put her in a match with this enhancement talent who makes her look really good. And you say, okay, now Dakota Kai, this Dakota Kai, that's a match versus Io Shirai I want to watch. And that's good. You should do that more across the board with a lot of people. The aftermath with Io Shirai and Dakota Kai having a fight. And then Raquel Gonzalez, again, she should still be called Reina. Reina means queen. Raquel means Rachel. It's totally different. I don't know why we got rid of queen to Rachel. That doesn't make a lot of sense unless you're a Friends fan. But listen, she looks great. She's huge. I don't know how tall she is. She looks like she's 7'5" in there with other women. And it really makes her look so much more powerful. That huge, giant, like chest slam, where she like palms a whole lady's boobs and then just shoves her into the mat as hard as possible. Though every time she does it, it looks so vicious. I love what she brings to this thing. I love that we thought maybe she and Dakota weren't around each other anymore because she hadn't appeared for a while. And then Dakota said, I don't need insurance. So I like that she's around. It gives it another option of this. If you say, well, they're not going to put the title on Dakota Kai, we're like, well, listen, they love their wacky finishes, interference. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it via Reina Gonzalez interfering and beating up Io Shirai while the ref takes a bump or something.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you're totally right about that. I probably undervalued the match itself, and you put a really good light on that because I do much prefer this like a squash style match against, kind of a jobber, right? But that's totally fine. Like, Dakota Kai should do that to somebody we're not really familiar with on NXT. Like, that would totally make sense heading into a title match. So I thought it was all good. Who do you think wins that match at TakeOver? Do you think Dakota Kai walks away with the title, or do you think that Io Shirai retains?
I don't know. They keep talking about how they're going to do like this triple brand draft. At some point in the future, I don't know when, but I don't think Kai is the person that you put Io the belt on now. If Io isn't immediately being called up somewhere, and who knows, like with Kairi Sane gone, I could see Io and Asuka like making a serious run as tag champions for a while if they finally take all the belts off of Sasha and Bayley and make them pissed at each other, and that's why we wind up getting that feud. I think that's a possibility, but I don't think Kai wins it this weekend unless they have serious plans for Io that I am unaware of.
Good deal. As far as the next match, man, we talked about him a little bit last week. Legado del Fantasma, the group with Escobar, Wild, and Mendoza, and how much value I think they're bringing to the 205 Live brand right now, and just like the cruiserweight scene just in general with Escobar holding that title belt and everything. They had a match tonight with Breezango and Isaiah Swerve Scott. Swerve Scott, of course, being the only person to have a victory over Santos Escobar, on WWE programming. So What do you think about this match here? Do you? I mean, I don't think it was like a surprise that Legado del Fantasma won this one, but at the same time, it kind of all. I feel like it did what it needed to, and it kind of showcased all the guys involved and kept the stable looking strong. So, what were your thoughts on this one, man?
Well, especially since they announced that they're going to do a triple threat tag team match on the pre-show for Takeover, which will determine a number one contender for Imperium, which involves Breezango and Wild and Mendoza, plus Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. So they're building toward that match with more and more of this. I just love Fandango, man. I really think that he got done dirty a lot. Like they built him up, they let him win his first match at WrestleMania, and then it just never really materialized for him because it was like, hey, I dance. What do? I dance. Watch me dance. Look, I do this thing with my fingers. That's what I do. And that was his whole gimmick for years. And then he found Tyler Breeze, and that Breezango thing was magic on SmackDown. They were so great together. Then one or more, the other one gets hurt, and they wind up back together, and the other one get hurt again, and it never really worked. But I feel like if they were to ever split them up, please don't split them up. I'm not asking you to split them up. If they ever did, I think Fandango is the kind of guy who really does have a great mid-card run in him as a champion, because he's so funny as this self-aware, brain-dead character. Like, he's so great. All the stuff they did together. So, I mean, I really would love to see them, they and the two of them, Breeze and Fandango, becoming tag champs. We can get rid of Imperium because they're not around. They're not defending the belt. They're not doing anything. They're not even on TV. Like, putting the belt on them now looks like a stupid idea. Put them on Breezango. Let them feud forever with Legado del Fantasma. Let Legado del Fantasma win the belts and freebird them. Like, I think that would be really cool to see what matches Escobar decides are important enough that he has to step in for one of his two underlings. I think that'd be actually pretty cool as well. I guess you get Escobar, he pins Breeze, but also there was a visual pin of Swerve Scott on Escobar, which furthers that rivalry. But I don't love how, like, if the announcers are even confused by it, then you've overbooked it. Like, when they're like, I guess Tyler Breeze is the legal man. I have no idea what happened. Like, then you've thought about it too much. Just, I know you do the whole thing where, oh, well, we got to find a way for this to not work. We want to have our cake and eat it too. We want Swerve Scott to pin Santos Escobar, but not yet. So we have to have this other thing happen. Escobar looking strong by pinning Tyler Breeze. Just pick one. You gotta pick one. You can't do both. It doesn't work.
Now, I will say, I don't have much of a problem with the wrestlers being confused in that scenario, because Swerve Scott didn't. Sure. But the announcers, I'm totally with you there. Yeah. Because as a viewer, like, without the commentary side of it, I was like, oh, that's actually kind of different. Like, it looked like he had the win, and they actually stuck to the rules. Like, there was a tag made, and the legal man was not Swerve Scott. So I did like that swerve pun, kind of definitely intended there. We had a couple super chats while we were talking about that, and like we've been mentioning before, if you want your voice heard, if you want your questions answered, if you want to make predictions along with us for some of these matches we're talking about and stuff, super chats, we'll make sure to dive deep on those for you. Lee Lewis asks, is that a Breaking Bad QZ? Already like you. Okay, so I think you're referring to, because I think I'm the only one holding QZ. This is actually for a website out of Nashville, Tennessee called the Soberers Network. I do an MMA podcast with them every Monday. But I will say Breaking Bad is definitely one of my top 3 favorite shows of all time. So love Breaking Bad still, but it is not a Breaking Bad QZ. Dizzy C with a $50 super chat. I believe that says, is that a $50 super chat? It doesn't say the dollar sign on there. I can't tell. Either way, Dizzy C with the super chat, thank you very much, says Rhea is a great babyface and a murderer. Yeah, man, I wish they would have. I feel like they dropped the ball massively with her. And I know you had a lot of thoughts on this, Alex, so just go for it, man.
Well, no, we'll talk about it when we get to that point when we talk about that match. But yeah, I do love that Rhea Ripley does not have any qualms about causing blunt force trauma deaths to people. Just, it's basically she is the female Australian equivalent of Drago from Rocky IV. If she dies, she dies. Like that's basically Rhea Ripley, and I'm so here for it. I always have been. I want her to use her like this more. Like she's a human wrecking ball. Like she's got herself in such fantastic shape. She has the world in front of her. You could give it to her now and let her run with it for the next 20 years if you wanted to. She'll never drop the ball. She's that good. I only think that the only thing you can do at this point by holding her back is actively damage her. Just let her go. She's a gazelle. She's a huge, muscular, murderous gazelle, but she's a gazelle. You have to let her run free.
I couldn't agree more. That's poetic, Alex. Beautiful. Moving on, we had you know what? Something else that was actually poetic and beautiful, and I did not see this coming. We had that segment with Pat McAfee and Adam Cole, along with the Undisputed Era and a couple football players, along with Pat McAfee. And I mean, I'm gonna let you take it away here in a second. Just gonna give a quick thought here that I did not see that coming at all. Pat McAfee cut an incredible promo, in my opinion. I saw some of your tweets about it, so I don't want to step on your toes too much because I know you got thoughts on this. But I really, I was very impressed. The only thing he did that I can nitpick is he did one of those, like, all you peoples during it. And I was like, you always catch that, especially if you watch this channel often, you always catch those. But, Alex, what did you think about this with McAfee bringing that entourage, Cole bringing his entourage? Cole was actually the one to tell his people to back off first. I mean, Cole came off like a badass, in my opinion, this whole segment. So go for it, Alex. What are your thoughts?
This was great. This was the best thing on NXT this week. Unexpectedly so. I was one of those people from the beginning who was like, really? They're giving Pat McAfee his first match against Adam Cole? Like, good for Pat McAfee. I mean, we'll see what he wants to do in wrestling. That'll be interesting. But Adam Cole has to work with Pat McAfee, a former punter. Not like when Bam Bam Bigelow wrestled Lawrence Taylor, Hall of Fame linebacker Lawrence Taylor. Like Adam Cole's wrestle the punter. Like, what an insult that is if you know American football. I know he was a great punter. He was still a punter. And yet, he comes out, and Pat McAfee walks to the ring with an actual linebacker, A.J. Hawk, a free safety, Darius Butler, and I don't know who the third guy was. I didn't catch who he was.
They didn't announce his name. I don't know if he was the driver that's kind of rolled in there with him. I wasn't sure.
He was the limo driver. That's great. I don't know who he was, but Pat McAfee mentioned that all of them had played professional football. A.J. Hawk has lost a lot of weight since he was playing linebacker for the Packers. I remember watching him, living in Wisconsin, watching him miss many a tackle on Sundays. But it was funny to me that, like, he comes in, like, the beginning of it was so great. He's like, I know that you can't stand in the middle of the ring on your own 2 feet. You're going to have to bring your stooges. So I brought my guys. And my guy, I have no problem sending my guys against your guys because, I mean, let's be honest, you're all a bunch of midgets. Like, basically, that's that whole thing that he was doing was all, you're so small, you're so small, you're so small. And everybody's talking about online, like, why would you let, shouldn't it be the professional wrestler talking shit to the professional athlete who's trying to come into his world? But it presented so much more strength in Adam Cole to just stand there and be like, man, I am going to end you so hard on Saturday. Just like the whole time, just seething with anger. But the promo by McAfee was masterful. Like, this guy is so good on the mic. He's better than 98% of the people they have in their employ across all 3 brands. He is. He just, I mean, and if you're saying to yourself, it was a bad promo, it wasn't even very good, then you're AEW stan who hates, or you hate the idea of him being in this match at all. And I can sympathize with the second part if you didn't watch the promo tonight, because this promo changed everything for me. If he can go at all at the pay-per-view, if he can go at all, if you see any potential in him, you have to give him a king's ransom offer. You say, stop doing your little things where you do podcasting and you can keep the podcast. Stop doing the college football announcement. They're never going to take you seriously in college football. They're never going to let you be who you are there. Come over here. You can just talk every week for 10 minutes, and everybody else can listen and be like, oh, wow, that's what a natural talker sounds like. And then we'll train you how to take bumps and do moves. I mean, all you have to do is be reasonably talented in the ring, and the talking will carry you until you get there. He's young enough that he can learn. He looks yoked. Like, he's got biceps and stuff. Like, he looks a lot better built than Dominic Mysterio, who's also having his debut match this week. So, I mean, everything he was saying made so much sense. He was just full of fire, and he had the delivery. Everything was all about belittling Cole, but it all felt so real to him. And I could quibble with some of the things he said, but man, that was a great heel promo. And he never stuttered once. He never stumbled. It was all perfectly delivered to Adam Cole. And then at the end, Adam Cole walks up and says, on Saturday, I'm going to make you my bitch. And that's all he had to say. And they walk away when they have this little standoff where Adam Cole gets to beat up a bunch of like security stooges. But really what it is that fire promo from McAfee. Adam Cole, not scared, walks up, I'm going to make you my bitch. And they walk away. And now I got to see this match. Because guess what? I haven't seen them really do anything to each other since that punt kick. Like, that was it. And that was kind of like a cheap shot by the guy who doesn't actually wrestle. So I'm prepared to watch this on Saturday and see one of two things. Pat McAfee, like, trying to run away and, like, you know, being the smart guy. Oh, if I'm not in the ring, you can't hurt me for, like, 12 minutes. You know what I mean? Or for him to pull out some really interesting athletic stuff for Adam Cole to sell when he needs to, and then Adam Cole to eventually win, but us to go, well, I want to see more of what Pat McAfee's selling. Let's do more of that. This could be the beginning of a huge new talent in wrestling. If he wants it to be, and if WWE is smart enough to make him that offer.
Dude, the way you're talking too, it actually reminds me, it's somewhat unrelated, but it just reminds me of, remember probably, I don't know, 2 or so years or so, maybe more recent, when Cain Velasquez was wrestling for AAA, and like no one knew what really to expect. And this was before he came to the WWE. And he went out there and he was like hitting Hurricane Ranas on people. He was going out there and like, he was killing it with like a lucha style. And this is a former UFC heavyweight champion that we did not expect this out of. And I kind of have these kind of vibes. Same with Dominic Mysterio this weekend. I don't know. Like, I have like really high hopes for these people that are kind of making these debuts in prominent positions. I mean, you mentioned Dominic Mysterio. He's in there against Seth Rollins. And if he wins that match, he's already like basically like a main event level guy, like right off the bat if he wins. And then you have Pat McAfee, who could be an immediate star by beating, you know, the longest running NXT champion ever. So, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on this weekend as far as the debuts. We had a couple people that wanted to chime in on this topic as well. Anakin JMT with another super chat says, Pat better watch out Saturday. Cole's looking to take out some aggression after how Breeze screwed him out of 2 Uno wins in a row this week. Uno wins. Is this something I missed? Was this like on a gaming channel or something?
I believe it's on Up, Up, Down, Down,
okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
I missed that, but shout out to Up, Up, Down, Down, Xavier Woods and those guys. I mean, doing their thing. So I can't really speak to that, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the match between Cole and Pat McAfee much more now than I was last week. I mean, it's not even close. We got a few more super chats here that I want to make sure to get to. Justin Lopez says, honestly, guys, I thought he cut a fire promo, and the quote, I made $1 million in 7 different industries popped me. Yeah. He said something along the lines of like, this will be my 8th job if I want to accept this job. Basically, I mean, I couldn't agree more. That was fire. Justin Lopez also says, also before tonight, the only way,
I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. The only way I saw McAfee winning was have the Undisputed Era turn on Cole. Could you guys see that happening? I'll let you answer that, Alex. Do you think that we could possibly see the Undisputed Era actually turn on Adam Cole?
Maybe Roddy, but they haven't built it right. Like, Roddy has always been the whipping boy. You could see if they had done it the way they could have, is to have him resent the way he's being treated and all that kind of stuff, at least built to it. but it would come out of nowhere, which means they'll probably do it because there's no need for logic or storytelling or consistency. So who knows?
One more super chat here. J.K. Schwal 03 says, as a Packer fan, too, I know Alex can appreciate AJ Hawk's ability to make a career of making a tackle 8 yards past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. If you ran a delayed dive up the middle, AJ Hawk would absolutely make that tackle 1 yard past the first down every time. I mean, listen to the thing. You will get 9 yards on AJ Hawk, but you will not get 10. Okay, so if it's 1st and 10, it'll be 2nd and 1 after that tackle. That's AJ Hawk's signature.
And J.K. Schwal, just so you know, and Alex as well, I'm actually a lifelong Minnesota Vikings fan, so I actually know exactly what y'all are talking about.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, you're well aware.
So we can talk about that some other time, but thank you very much, J.K. Schwal, for that super chat. Moving on this show, let's see here. So that was kind of like the end of like the first hour of the show, was like leading into that promo and stuff. That was one of the fastest hours of wrestling I've watched in a while, where I was like, that was action packed. And honestly, when Pat McAfee pulled up, I was like, oh damn, they're gonna ruin this. Like the momentum is going, and now and they totally 180'd my opinion on that. Like, and then the second half of the show I thought was really good as well. Basically the next match we had, I don't think I'm missing anything here. Yeah, I think the next match we got here was the Robert Stone brand versus Rhea Ripley and Shotzi Blackheart. And we talked a little bit about Rhea Ripley a little bit ago, Alex, with his opinions on her, and our joint opinion that we both think she is fantastic and should be pushed to the moon. Basically, Shotzi Blackheart and Rhea Ripley get the win here over the Robert Stone brand. What did you think about this match, and do you have any additional thoughts on any of the competitors, and or any more thoughts on Rhea Ripley?
I mean, the story of this is, it's hard to say they don't matter when one of them got the pin for the victory on the other one. But Shotzi and Aaliyah don't matter in this. Like it's Shotzi's great. Aaliyah could not be more of an also ran thing that's just like there. But I still want to see more just one-on-one Mercedes Martinez versus Rhea Ripley. Just these two hoss women just throwing elbows and trying to end the other one's life. Just it's so refreshing to see this kind of thing where Rhea Ripley gets something to really sink her teeth into. I think is a possibility for her and Mercedes Martinez. The match ends effectively when Rhea Ripley power bombs Mercedes Martinez over the barricade onto the concrete. I mean, it's heavily edited, but just like, yes, no, if you die, I have no problem with that. I'll move on and I'll face somebody else because I'm Rhea Ripley. I think there's the potential is limitless there. Shotzi's always fun to watch, but I don't know where her ceiling is. She seems too weird, like not to me, but to them, the people who run things. She seems like she's an oddball character. She wears this funny helmet with horns on it. She rides a tank to the ring. She's zany, fellas. She loves to have fun. Like, it's that kind of a thing that if they ever say those things about you, then that's your ceiling. You'll never rise above it. They will never allow you to rise above it. And that's a problem because I think she's really talented and fun to watch. The welcome to the ball pit thing is fun. You know, like there's a lot of things to like about Shotzi Blackheart, and yet I don't know how much higher she can rise when people who have these sensibilities are running things.
Once again, can't say any of that better myself. Totally agree. We had a video package after this, which was building up basically Karrion Kross versus Keith Lee. And, of course, this is going to be the NXT Championship match at NXT TakeOver 30. So, my opinion is, like, I love the matchup, but I feel like they've totally boxed Keith Lee out because I feel like Karrion Kross has to win based on how they've, like, set all this up around him. And that leads me to believe that they're going to also want to bring him to Raw or SmackDown if he does lose the title, which also worries me as well because I guess I'll put it this way before we talk about because there isn't anything else really to talk about, like title match wise, aside from this this kind of vignette and promo and video package. I love Keith Lee, and I feel like it took him so long to get to that title, and like he finally won it, and like it hasn't been long yet, but it's like the way they built Karrion Kross, like how do you stop that either? So I'm so torn on the booking of this match right now. It reminds me kind of like The Fiend, right? Like when they built The Fiend up and there was just nowhere to go. Like they built him up, they gave him the title, and then it was like all the shenanigans that nobody cared about, and then before you knew it, this guy they had built to the moon was just another guy again. And it was like almost impossible to believe. And Keith Lee, obviously a much different wrestling character than The Fiend, obviously, but somebody who's totally unique, somebody who has the size, the speed. I mean, he's got a unique look. The way he speaks, like he's great on the microphone. He's like intellectual and stuff. It's like he presents something totally different, and I love his work, and I love him as champion. And I'm afraid that this is all going to Karrion Kross, who I also like. So, kind of, what are your thoughts, man? Like, do you think this all inevitably leads to Karrion Kross winning the belt over the weekend? And if so, what happens to Keith Lee?
They box themselves into a corner. The same way they did with The Fiend. This guy's hot. This guy's an interesting. People are talking about him. Guess we better hot shot him into a title program. But then what? Like you hot shot him into a title program that he has to win because of how you've booked him so far, but he's in the title program versus the champion who everybody else loves, whose rise has been meteoric, and you're going to squander all that to put the title on this new guy who, again, I do see a lot of things in. Like he's certainly got a lot of talent, and he's the combination of quickness and size that he has is undeniable. I'm not a big fan of his promo stuff. I don't like the walleye fisheye lens thing where you can see up his nose and he just says TikTok. Are you a fan of apps that the teenagers use to communicate? Is that what are you on board the TikTok? I don't get the fascination that this whole company has, from NXT to the main roster, of saying, let's take this guy we got that's really hot and interesting, and let's box him into a corner where he has to win against a guy who also can't lose, and now we don't know what to do, so whatever we do is going to be unsatisfying because we'll find a way to figure out a way of overbooking the finish. Remember how Seth Rollins could only beat The Fiend because he put a whole bunch of shit on top of him and then put a toolbox on top of him and then hit the toolbox with a hammer or whatever the fuck he did in a Hell in a Cell match? They had to stop the Hell in a Cell match, which is impossible because it's a Hell in a Cell match. You don't stop a Hell in a Cell match. Why would you do that? And then immediately after stop the Hell in a Cell match, they're like, oh, we'll save it. Bray Wyatt will wake up and The Fiend will put on the mandible claw on him after the thing. But, then, oh, well, we screwed that pooch. That pooch has been screwed to death. Let's take everybody over to Saudi Arabia, and we'll have The Fiend survive being thrown in a box of electricity, and he'll come back out like Michael Myers at the end of Halloween 8, and he'll pin Seth Rollins, and that'll fix everything, surely. Oh, no, wait, we kind of ruined and neutered that character? I know, Bill Goldberg will save us! What a horrible, horrible way they fucking botched all of that shit. All of it. They made us, by putting The Fiend, a character we were all in love with, and rightfully so, after his debut at SummerSlam, by booking him against Seth Rollins, the babyface that we were supposed to cheer for because he unseated Brock Lesnar, by putting the Fiend in that match versus Seth Rollins, they made us choose. And we're always going to choose the really fun, cool new guy. Like, we're always going to choose that The Fiend was so compelling. Of course we're going to choose him. He carries around the head of his former character as a lantern. Of course we're going to choose him over Seth Rollins. So now, if we choose that guy over Seth Rollins, well, you can't keep Seth Rollins babyface. Now you got to turn him heel. And now we got the Monday Night fucking Messiah. Like, we got the fucking Jesus character who's only got one disciple and walks, like, the whole thing has gone to shit because they decided to box themselves into a corner. So forgive me if I'm thinking that they're going to do the same thing here. Like, what are we supposed to do? At least I don't see a lot of people being like super enamored with Killer Cross, with Karrion Kross now. They're like, he's interesting and fun and great, and he's great. But he's not like, he doesn't have the same super rabid following that the Fiend had. So I don't know where this is all going, but I can tell it's not going to be good. Whatever they decide, it's not going to be good. And listen, all you have to do is watch how they're booking the people they have on Raw and SmackDown. And to say you want Keith Lee up there is to say you want Keith Lee's career to end. I mean, effectively, to be used either poorly, to be given a push for a few weeks until Vince says, I don't like him, he's too fat. If he was thinner, maybe I'd keep pushing him, but he seems fat. I know he can do a lot of athletic stuff, but I don't believe it. Or whatever comes into Vince's mind that day. And then he's just shunted off to the side. Or he's given some weird, stupid new gimmick. Like, I don't know what they're going to do with him, but it's not going to be great. And then he's going to give up years of his career to not being used at all or being used poorly. And when he finally gets out from under this contract, he's going to be 38, 39, 40 years old. And then what? I'm in such a dark place about WWE and the way that they book things, who they choose to push, why they choose to push them. It's dark, dark times, which maybe it's perfect for the guy who's like all about darkness, whose wife is like, here's a fireball I materialized out of thin air. Maybe it's perfect for that guy to be the champion then.
Oh man, that was perfect, man. Another poetic monologue by Alex Pawlowski, man. That's I mean, literally, even Dante V with the super chat says Sour Graps Wednesday edition.
Listen, you're gonna get a lot more of these unless the booking improves, people.
Yeah, man, love it. We also had another super chat earlier that probably came around the time we were talking about this match. Want to make sure not to miss it. It's from Dizzy C. It says, I actually think Shotzi looks good with Rhea aesthetically, even if Rhea is good as a loner. So do you agree with that? You like the team there? Like if they do more stuff between Shotzi and Rhea going forward?
I suppose they work together really well. Like she could easily be like the wacky younger sister kind of a thing. I'm assuming she's older than Rhea because Rhea is so friggin' young. But they have that kind of a dynamic. Like, you mess with my kid sister and I'm gonna at your ass. Like that kind of a thing. Because they seem like they're two versions of the same aesthetic. Like Shotzi's like, hey, my hair's green. I ride a tank. And Rhea's like, that's cool. I murder people. Like, it's the same basic idea. Like, they're very punk, but in a different kind of way. But I still think they mesh together well.
Sure. Justin Lopez, with another super chat, says, I have faith Alex, Roman, and Brock did give him rubs at the Rumble and Survivor Series, but then again, it is Vince. I mean, that's very true as well. I mean, from what I've heard, and who knows how reliable this is, but from what I've heard, Vince McMahon was very impressed with him so far from what he's seen of him in the main roster, and they really did highlight him at Survivor Series with the way that he wrestled Roman there at the end of the match and stuff, for sure.
Survivor Series is almost a year ago now. We forget because, you know, the COVID times felt like it's just like anything prior to like March is like the before times, the long ago. Like it feels like there's been epochs that have stretched over this summer, but it really is almost a year since Survivor Series. And Vince only takes like 3 weeks to sour on somebody. Like he called up EC3 and decided in 1 week that guy doesn't have it, which is fucking stupid as fuck. Like that guy has all of it. And they decide in a week, like, nah, he doesn't have it. I don't want to use him. That's ridiculous, but he can do it. He can say, oh, I will like Keith Lee back in November, bring him up and say, nah, I don't see it anymore. You know, like, cause this is a guy who decides to push and put the Money in the Bank title, Money in the Bank briefcase on Otis of all people. Like, you can't reason with that kind of insanity. You just can't.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Keith Lee on the main roster if and when that happens. Maybe they'll pull a giant, something kind of out of left field, and maybe Keith Lee just retains. But if they do that, then what was all of the point in this with Karrion Kross? Like that's
well, see, if it was AEW, Karrion Kross would lose, and they just move on to somebody else. Because that's what they do with Lance Archer, with Brody Lee, with Brian Cage. They bring in these big monsters. They book them like a monster for 4 weeks. They feed them to the champion, and they move on. Like, I think it's possible you'll see Lance Archer rebound from that and get another title shot. But AEW's thing is the opposite. They bring in the monster. They feed the monster to the champion. The champion looks great, and the monster looks great, but the monster loses. And then the champion moves on to the next thing. In NXT and in WWE, they very rarely do that. They build this guy up and up and up and up and up, and they don't want to like squash that right now. They'll squash it later when they've gotten tired of him. But at this point, they need to do something with it. Otherwise, what are they doing it for?
Yeah, you're totally right about that with AEW as well. Like Lance Archer still has not recovered. He's actually in a pretty bad spot, it looks like, with like Jake the Snake right now. They're not doing anything too appealing right now, in my opinion, on the show. Brody Lee is somewhat rebounded, especially depending on the outcome of his match with Cody this weekend.
Right.
But it did take time to build him back up, and a complete shift in the Dark Order storyline from like a serious group into a more of a comedic group, which I actually think is hilarious. I really like the Dark Order, what they're doing right now. Mainly also because I follow Being the Elite each week. So, and of course cover it for Fightful Select on the Fightful Weekender if you want to check it out. But and then with Brian Cage, the verdict's still out with me on him. Like, I know he's great. I've been watching his career for a long time, but like as far as an AEW, the FTW belt doesn't mean a whole lot to me. It was cool like in ECW, but it's not like a real AEW belt. So I totally get what you're saying with how they've kind of built these guys, put them in a big spot, and then they're still trying to recover. So yeah, man, I don't know. It's a tough one. They've really boxed themselves into a corner, like you said, with the booking of this main event. But I can't deny that Karrion Kross is great as well as Keith Lee. I mean, I can't deny that these are two guys that I want to see in a world title match. It's just someone. I mean, theoretically speaking, someone has to lose. But and I'd rather somebody lose than like a non-finish or a DQ or something stupid. Like I'd rather have just a straight up winner. But how do you make that decision on who you go with? And we'll see. But at least I am interested in the match. I mean, at the very least, I'm interested to see what they wind up doing. So that's a win.
Listen, they very well could have Keith Lee lose because Scarlett conjures up like a swarm of bats that just like descend from the rooftop of the PC and just flutter all around him, and he falls over, and then Killer Kross pins him. They could do that because she's a sorceress, don't you know?
Very true. And if that winds up happening, someone's watching the show right now. If that's what winds up happening. Although we have seen, I mean, it really isn't that far off from like cockroaches on the ring for like the Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton WrestleMania or something like that. Like it's pretty much, I mean, we've seen things like this. What scares me is seeing this stuff on NXT, because this is supposed to be like the future of the company. Like I want something different than what Vince has been doing. Now it seems like Vince is either helping book NXT more heavily, or Triple H is just like going along the lines of more of how Vince thinks, probably in hopes of like trying to take over the whole thing quicker. Maybe that's part of it is Triple H can be like, hey Pops, you know, I've got fireballs coming out of contracts, I've got bats flying around the ring, and he's like, you finally did it, Paul. Now you get it. All right, you got Raw and SmackDown. You know, who knows? But as far as the main event of the show, man, that's all we got left to talk about here. If there's anybody who has a super chat before we get out of here, you know, while we're talking about this main event of tonight's NXT, make sure to send it now, or while we're talking about the match. We will make sure to dive deep on that. So if you got a question, if you have some predictions for, you know, the matches this weekend, anything that you want to make sure that we read out, anything at all, a super chat is much appreciated, and we'll try to give you your money's worth on that. So the main event, we had Finn Balor and Velveteen Dream. We talked a little bit about the return of Velveteen Dream last week, and since then, I know a lot of people have talked about him, and I know that there's a lot of different opinions on him at the moment. So I don't know if we want to dive into that or not, but as far as like the actual match is concerned and I mean, it's strange, right? Because of what's going on, but they're clearly not afraid to push him. Like, he's just got a win over Finn Balor. He's going to be in this ladder match at NXT TakeOver 30. I mean, I thought the match itself was pretty solid, and I think Velveteen Dream is a very good in-ring worker and character, and he's still somewhat green, but, like, it's exciting because he's green and he's already this good. You know, it's like, I'm a very big fan of his, but then there's all the outside the ring stuff that I'm still, like, kind of like, I don't know, I feel kind of weird about still. So it's like, kind of, what were your thoughts kind of on the main event and Velveteen Dream getting, you know, heavily spotlighted on the show again? And then, of course, we had all this stuff. You know, the match, it was a screwy finish, and everybody came out and all. I know it's a lot to digest and a lot to unpack there, so I just kind of try to lob that up for you if you want to go ahead and just give me your thoughts.
Thank you for throwing that dead fish in my lap.
You're very welcome, sir.
Yeah. Listen, the people who accuse Dream of doing what they appear to have proof that he did were not contacted by anybody in WWE to find out what's the deal with this. Can you tell us more? Like, let's find out more about what you say happened. Like, walk us through this. Let's have a thing with you. We'll talk to you. We'll answer you some questions. We'll have the same questions to Dream. See what he has to say. Let's conduct an investigation. That investigation never fucking happened. And that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know to say.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's all I need to know to say. Fuck everything. Fuck all of this. Like, that's all I need to say. Like, that's it. Like, if you didn't do the investigation, if you didn't just contact the people who said, look, this dude's soliciting nudes from teenagers, if you didn't, like, people made that kind of, like, allegations against him, and you didn't like call him up to say, hey, what's up with that? If you didn't do that at the bare minimum, and then you say in interviews this week, no, we looked into it. It seems like it's nothing. You know, in this day and age, a lot of people say things. We don't know exactly what happened, so we're just going to move on.
Well, also, sorry.
That's weak shit.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry about
that. Go ahead.
I also wanted to mention, because it's along with what you're saying. I caught on commentary during his match. I can't remember who said it on commentary, but somebody actually mentioned, like, this is Dream coming back after his self-inflicted hiatus or whatever, however they worded it, and it was like
they're not even using the car accident in kayfabe. They're not even like using the car accident as the reason he was gone. Like, they say Triple H, you brought him back after all these allegations. Like, no, that wasn't it. He was in a car accident and he wasn't medically cleared. Now he's cleared, so he's back. So what you're saying is, if he didn't get in the car accident and he was healthy, he would have been wrestling this whole time? He would have been on TV this whole time after all that shit came out. You never would have held him off and been like, you know what, listen, we're gonna hold you off TV for a few weeks and figure all this stuff out. And if you do an actual, honest to God, real investigation, not yourselves, but you hire an outside company who does this kind of stuff to do background checks and stuff, and they say, you know what, it's all clean, it's a little dicey, but he came out clean. And then you say, here are the findings done by this outside group. We're going to publish them. We believe we are in the right to put him back on TV. If you do all of that, then I'm much more willing to go along with whatever you've done. But you say, we investigated ourselves, and it turns out we did nothing wrong. That's bullshit. You can't do any of that. Now, I don't know, moving on to the match itself, I appreciate that Dream is really leaning into this heel thing. Like, he's very, very much like loving getting to play this heel part, which I honestly think was the best thing for him from the beginning. Like, they really wanted to lean into, like, hey, he's really fun, everybody likes him, he's controversial and whatever. And, well, yeah, it turns out that, you know, alleged pedophiles are controversial, but it was like this thing where we were supposed to root for him, even though he was weird and, you know, you couldn't predict him or whatever. Now he's like saying, no, I'm this villain, which is great. At least we don't have to root for him. That's good. But at the same time, I don't want to see him on TV. And I definitely don't want to see him pinning Finn Balor, who's one of the greatest allies to the LGBTQ community, that you have teenage boys saying this guy is trying to prey on us, and you're putting that guy, this alleged predator, over one of the best friends to the gay community you have on the entire roster in Finn Balor. It just isn't a good look, man. Like, and the saddest thing about all of this is that you add in to all of that the fact that the whole thing was a giant schmoz. Halfway through the match, Cameron Grimes comes out for no reason to sit on the top of a ladder for 10 minutes. And then everybody else starts coming out, and everybody gets involved, because if there's a big multi-man ladder match, everybody has to come out and get involved. Otherwise, how will we know they're all in the ladder match? It's not like people have fucking Google now. It's not 1986. Like, we know what's going on. We know who's in the matches. You're putting up on the friggin' cards, like you have in Mauro say, this Saturday, this is going to happen. You don't need to remind us by having them all come out and get involved with a giant friggin' ref bump. And then you have one of them get involved who's not even in the match. Now, am I happy we're going to get Finn Balor versus Timothy Thatcher matches? Yes. Does the end justify the means? Hell no, it does not. So you have Finn Balor lose in this way after the schmozziest of schmozzes where everyone gets involved. I hate all of that shit. That's very min-wrestler. It's very Vince. So the thing is that this has become Wednesday Night Raw. Like, is it better than Monday and Friday? Of course it is. It's so much better than Wednesday and than Monday and Friday. But it's the same booking scheme, which means we're going to start going that steep decline downhill until it is as bad as Monday and Friday. But here's the thing. We've all been saying everything's going to get better when Vince is gone. When Vince steps aside or dies or whatever, everything's going to get better when Vince is gone. And it's not. Because from what we've seen this week with the booking, with deciding to push this guy, not even just like letting him stay on your show, but pushing him too. And all the comments that Triple H has said, like he's also said today in his thing, like, we've already addressed that topic, so we're going to move on. No. This is a topic you got to sit in, Trips. Paul, you got to address this shit. You made this decision to keep this guy on your show and to push him, make him a focus of your show. You have to talk about this topic because you decided to make it a topic by bringing him back. So with all that stuff Triple H is saying, if Triple H is the guy who takes over for Vince, nothing's really going to change. Not really. And that, as is the catchphrase of Sour Graps, that means everything sucks.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. I really couldn't agree more with you. Yeah, man. And then also, like, on top of it, on like the other side of it, like just on the wrestling side, Finn Balor, it's strange to me to see him in the spot he's in. I mean, like, I do like him and Timothy Thatcher. I do like that matchup a lot. I think it's going to be great. But Finn Balor's like, I mean, I'm not saying he's like above NXT or anything, because I actually like NXT better than all the other WWE shows. Like, I like that Balor's on NXT. That means I actually watch him more often because I watch NXT more than I watch Raw and SmackDown. But I feel like it's so weird. Like, he's like a superstar among people who are trying to be superstars and like getting lost in the mix. It's strange to me. Because I figured him going back to NXT meant for sure he was going to win the NXT title again, and like, because he was such a great NXT champion the first time, and
we have no idea what they were planning with him, where he was going to fight Walter for the NXT UK title. Like, that was all set up for NXT UK Dublin. Like, who knows what that would have done? Like, if they would have done that where he actually took the title, nobody beats Walter. Nobody. If they had Finn Balor beat Walter in Dublin for that title, and he could like fly over there and stay in his friggin' in Dublin, and then fly over to wherever the hell they're doing the tapings, but then come back to NXT for several weeks and defend the NXT UK title here. Like, you would have had well, obviously not now, but you would have had like Tyler Bate versus Finn Balor stuff. You would have had Pete Dunne versus Finn Balor stuff for the NXT UK title. All of that. I think they had major plans for Finn Balor to anchor and revitalize the NXT UK brand. And then, we have no idea what they were planning. He looked so revitalized, so ready to be a star again when he first showed up back in NXT almost a year ago. And the whole thing has been really this whole recent few months have been really bad for Finn Balor, and that sucks.
Dude, that's a tremendous point you just made, because you're totally right. They were pushing Finn Balor to be that guy in NXT UK. Whether he was going to beat Walter or not, it was like he was doing a lot of really cool stuff over there. So that can't be understated. You're totally right about that. And now they're kind of pivoting, and like who knows where they're going with this. But I'll say it again. Like I think him and Timothy Thatcher is going to be really good. So we'll see where they wind up going with this. I know we saw. All right, sorry. I know we had a couple super chats. Justin Lopez said, hard for me to get behind Dream with all the BS out there. Yeah, that's what me and Alex are saying as well. It's a sticky situation for sure. Sasha Banks with a couple super chats says, do you do shout outs? Yeah, shout out Sasha Banks. Alex, is there anything else you want to get to before we get on out of here? That was NXT for this week.
Yeah. The Takeover UK, Takeover 30, whatever it is, looks interesting. Like the matches look interesting to me. I'm trying to like recall. They don't have a cruiserweight title match, right? They don't have a tag title match. Run down the card for me I know, but the giant ladder match, McAfee and Cole, Keith Lee and Karrion Kross, and the women's title match. Am I forgetting one?
No, you nailed it. The only other one is the tag team triple threat for the number one contender on the pre-show.
So is that a 4-match main card, or am I missing one?
Yeah, you're correct. And I was confused
because 4 matches is really short.
Yeah, and I was confused about that also, because I was kind of looking over this before tonight's show, and I was thinking like for sure they'll add a 5th match tonight for that, and that's kind of what I thought the tag team thing was going to be. And I thought maybe even there was a chance they had Imperium there. Like maybe they got him and like they could do the tag match like after, like whoever wins the pre-show could get the tag match later that night maybe.
Yeah, that maybe. I mean, the thing that they have that's ready and available to them is they can say, you have all kinds of people who could be like have grudge matches that they can book via social media or on The Bump or whatever the hell they do their thing. You could do Rhea versus Mercedes Martinez in a straight up one-on-one match. There's other things that you can do. You could do Finn Balor versus Timothy Thatcher. You could say we're putting that on Takeover 2 because Finn Balor deserves a spot on Takeover 30. Like if the 30th Takeover, Finn Balor like the Finn Balor era was so important to NXT. Seems like he should be on the card if he's not in that ladder match, which he should be in that ladder match. But if not, then having him versus Timothy Thatcher, it's Timothy Thatcher, who's a brand new, very interesting face in NXT. I'd be down for that being the 5th match they add to the main card.
I couldn't agree more. I think that would be the perfect match to add. And like you said, if you have Finn Balor available, I mean, for those of you who might not understand, or maybe just because you weren't watching NXT at the time, actually around this era, I'm wearing a Samoa Joe shirt from like around the time that we're talking about actually. Finn Balor, like that era where it was like Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Neville, like that kind of group of guys, and of course the girls too, the horsewomen, and I mean that was Finn Balor, like because I loved Kevin Owens as champion. I thought it was so great the way he was a heel and just everything he did, the way he beat Sami Zayn for the belt, and I loved Kevin Owens. And then I was a little disappointed when Balor got the belt from him because I was like, man, I love what Owens is doing. And then Balor took that belt, put the company on his back, and brought NXT to levels that I don't think they would have reached if he wasn't the face of the company. So Finn Balor really, really deserves a lot of credit and should for sure be featured on this show. Evan Wright says McAfee versus Cole, 60-minute Iron Man match. Let's go. Basically, I think he's basically saying there's probably gonna be enough time for it if there's only 4 matches. Yeah. Myron Kidd says, why isn't Takeover in the Thunderdome? That's a good question. I don't know. They're doing SmackDown and SummerSlam, and I don't know about Raw,
Raw's everything after everything on the main roster from here until October is all in the Thunderdome.
So there you go.
Where 2 men enter, 1 man wins by DQ. That's hard. It's hard to chant, but it's actually much more true to WWE.
There you go. Justin Lopez. Oh, this is a great question. Says ladder match picks. I'm going with Priest. You know what? I did predictions for this show a few days ago, and I actually predicted that Finn Balor would beat Velveteen tonight and then win the title over the weekend. So my pick would have been Finn Balor. Of the people that are available, or that are going to actually be in the match, I should say, I don't think Velveteen needs the belt again. I don't think Gargano needs the belt again. I think Grimes could probably do a lot of cool stuff with it, even though I hate his little hat.
Grimes is my pick.
Grimes is Alex's pick.
Grimes is my pick because they love to have chicken shit heel mid-card champions. He's going to be the guy who refuses to wrestle anybody. He's going to be the AJ Styles Intercontinental Champion version on NXT. They love that guy. And listen, he does a great job of playing that character. He's insufferable. We love to hate him. We can't wait to see him get his ass kicked, which is why they're going to love putting him over in that ladder match. And he's the perfect guy to do it, too. He's going to cave in so many dudes from the top of ladders. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you as well. I think Priest, I would have probably went with Priest before seeing him lose to Bronson last week. And this is nothing against Bronson. I just feel like I would choose Bronson over Priest right now if I had to pick between the two of them for this match. But I do think Cameron Grimes is the best option. And also, people forget, and I'm not saying they made the wrong decision here, by the way, but, I thought that Cameron Grimes was going to win that whole Futures tournament that they did, ACH, what was it being called?
Jordan Miles.
And, nothing against Jordan Miles. We just know that whole situation just ended terribly, and he's not there anymore, and, Cameron Grimes is there, and I'm not blaming Jordan Miles for that. For people who know what went on with that, I'm not trying to I'm a Jordan Miles fan. I like ACH. I'm glad he's doing his thing on the indies, and I'm sure he's going to rebound and he'll be back on mainstream television. He's very, very talented. But Cameron Grimes, I feel like that was going to be his spot, and then Jordan Miles just kind of barely edged him there. And now they're kind of running with with Grimes. I feel like I think they really think I feel like they have to feel like they have a lot of value with Cameron Grimes right now, and he can have great matches. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Cameron Grimes as well. Anakin JMT says think Dynamite will counter program Takeover while they're head to head. Well, I mean they're gonna kind of naturally have to because they're gonna overlap. I think an hour. So. So, I mean, technically, I guess that is a counter program, but it's AEW didn't want to move to Saturday. It's because of the NBA,
right?
And so it's So, but thank you, Anakin, for the super chat. So we'll see what happens. That hour that it overlaps, maybe we're gonna see a lot of crazy stuff. I do know that Dynamite is stacking up to be a really, really good show. It looks like so. So NXT and AEW going head to head on Saturday is gonna be great. I'll definitely be watching both shows.
Well, I mean, this thing about AEW that they have going for them is that they're on a night where they're not normally on. People, we forget about there's a whole wide swath of people who work weeknights but are off on the weekends, and they might be flipping through the channels and find something on Saturday night they didn't know existed really, and they get to watch it. And those people don't have WWE Network. You have an opportunity to reach a whole new audience that doesn't even know that you exist. They may become fans of yours, and putting like old school dudes like FTR against new school dudes like Private Party, just to pick a random match that I know is happening on Saturday. That's a great way of being like, wow, that's fun. I'm going to make sure I DVR this stuff when it happens on Wednesdays.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. Well, Alex, we made it through an episode here today.
We did,
and I'm very happy about that. So. Alex, where can people find you? And of course, you can find both of us at Fightful Select. I want to make sure to shout that out one more time. That's the most direct way to help out and support Fightful. You get Alex's Sour Graps podcast. You get my Weekender podcast. You get a lot of stuff from Sean Ross Sapp, a lot of extra podcasts, a lot of news, breaking news, scoops. I mean, everything you think of. Great value. You get a lot of stuff for your money, and I said it before, said it at the top of the show, say it again. I'll rub you a little bit more, Alex. His show is worth the price alone. Everything above Sour Graps is literally just the bonus. So jump over there, Fightful Select, check it out. Outside of that, Alex, what else you got going on? Where can people follow you?
You can follow me on the Twitter at Alex Sourgraps. Do 2 weekly shows. One on Tuesday talking about Raw, and one on Saturday talking about SmackDown. But this weekend's going to be different because I'm doing the Takeover post show on Saturday. So I'm going to do something with. It looks like I'm going to do something with the regular post show. Sean and Jeremy are kind enough to invite me on to get free sour graps. So for people who are on the fence about, like, does he really hate SmackDown as much as he says he does? I maybe I'll tune in on Friday to the regular show on the regular YouTube to see, and then next week you can pay. Again, it's like 82 cents an episode. It's $5 a month. It's like 82 cents an episode to watch me get really, really angry about Raw and SmackDown.
A very relatable show for people like myself. For those of us who, because I grew up in the 90s, I'm a late 80s kid. I watched wrestling since the time I was I think it's traced back to about 1994. One of the worst storylines ever drew me into pro wrestling. 1995 Dungeon of Doom versus Hulk Hogan in WCW. Well, I was the right age for that. I was in that demographic though. Yes. So listening to you complain about wrestling is great for people like me because it's very relatable for fans like myself. We're all in the same boat. We're all in this together as wrestling fans. Especially the older we get, it's nice to have other people that you also look around and can be like, you know what? I'm not too old to like this. This guy's still out here complaining about it also. So it makes me feel better about myself. But you can catch me on Twitter, FightTalk _ FIGHTTLK _ I got a bunch of stuff going on, pro wrestling and MMA wise, video editing, podcasting, all that stuff. Try to keep that updated on my Twitter. Outside of that, any last words, Alex? You ready to get out of here?
I'm out. We'll watch or don't on Saturday, and then listen to me yap about it afterwards.
There you go. We're out of here, guys and girls and everything in between. We appreciate y'all all joining us tonight. Y'all have a good one.